Today's outfits are loosely based on the concept of the scout uniforms of the Boy Scouts organization, and I say loosely because I don't have the right hat really for it. There is a hat in single player that would be perfect, and I think that it was in the Outlaw Pass 1. It was part of the Kennedy outfit, but of course I didn't start playing until after Outlaw Pass 1 was over. I am using the Explorer hat, so-called. What it really is, of course, is a very traditional pith helmet. Because I have that change from the Scout uniform, not that I'm trying necessarily to create exactly the Scout uniform, but because I have that change, I went ahead and made more changes as time went on. The one that looks the most like the Scout uniform is the hot weather version. The average and cold look less like it, and I didn't really necessarily try to make them look like it after a while either. I just tried to do something interesting using the concept of the pith helmets and having one for each weather condition, each of the 3 weather conditions in the game. I think I have all the pith helmet colors that there are. I think there's 6 of them, so I'm not using all of them, but there's some interesting color variation here. And I used the patterned shirt to look kind of like a scout shirt, and I used the neckerchief to look like the scout neckerchief. And I think I used the Lightfoot pants in the kind of olive green color. I think I've also used either the Hardy or the Dunstan boots for most of these outfits. We'll see when I pull up the video I took earlier of looking at all the outfits, but I like those too because they have kind of the less cowboy look and more of kind of a modern, not too modern, but kind of a modern combat boot or hiking boot type of look. So I've gone with that, and I call these kind of an Explorer series, and it's a hybrid of a traditional Explorer outfit and the traditional Scout outfit. Although the Scout outfit, Lord Baden-Powell, when he created the Boy Scouts organization, did on purpose want to make it look kind of like a boys' paramilitary thing, and he wanted to teach boys the types of skills that would serve them well later in life, and he kind of used paramilitary disciplinary structure, not disciplinary, but in terms trying to teach self-discipline by using paramilitary types of rituals, like standing at attention, having uniform inspections, and stuff like that. Scouts, of course, was great fun for a long time. I'm pushing 50 years old, and when I was a Boy Scout as a teenager, it had kind of already gotten to the point where, unless Boy Scouts was what your church did as its activity arm, which was the case for me, then most of the people who were in Scouts were really kind of nerdy. And when we went to Scout camps and saw people outside of the church and how they did Scouts, it was a little different than us. It was maybe a little more serious about the scouting stuff, which we thought was kind of corny and hokey sometimes. And like I said, it was a little nerdy, quite honestly. I don't think we kind of expected that, because for us, scouting was kind of what you did, and it was all about doing cool outdoorsy stuff and all that. It was kind of the opposite of nerdy, but that was already a development by the 80s that has unfortunately only gotten considerably worse in the time since. And because it's been perceived as kind of this nerdy thing, fewer and fewer people are interested in doing it. And unfortunately, the Boy Scouts has had a membership crisis developing for a number of years, for a number of decades, really. And there's various reasons for that. Not only the fact that it's become kind of nerdy, it's become kind of momish and nannying and finger wagging and, oh my gosh, that's too dangerous, you have to be safe. And, there's, not that I think being safe is bad, of course, but it kind of sucked the fun out of it. And then the Leadership Council has been completely infested by SJWs and have been taking it further and further away from the ideals on which Scouting was founded. And today the Boy Scouts organization barely resembles at all anything that my parents would have recognized, much less my grandparents. I still recall, because it's a little bit shocking to me, because this would have been shocking even in my day, but I remember hearing a very elderly scout who since passed away. He was born in the early 1900s, I think, maybe the 1910s. I'm not sure exactly, but he was older. 10 years ago, he was already older, and I think that's about the time that he was telling this story. He said that when he was a 12-year-old scout, his scout leaders took him and the boys his age up into the mountains. They set up camp, and the adults left. And he was the, patrol leader, I guess, 12 years old, and the adults kind of said to him, "Now, Tommy, you're in charge. We'll be back in about 3 or 4 days. Make sure that you've got your fishing gear. Make sure that you catch a fish for every boy every day, and they all get a fish to eat every day. And we'll see you in 3 or 4 days." It's kind of amazing to think that that's how rugged and manly, I guess, the organization used to be. Because even in my day in the 80s, it hadn't been like that in a long time. And I had a good scoutmaster when I was a kid. He was a justice of the peace. He was kind of a former military. I think we all called him Colonel. I think some of the other sponsors were also retired military. We still would stand up every week and do uniform inspection and, stand at attention and do the salutes, do the oaths, do all the stuff. When my own boys were doing scouts, it was much more casual, and quite honestly, I was ready to ditch scouts before they were done. We went ahead and saw it through. The church that I belonged to, which was the charter and organization, and which used scouts as its activity arm for the boys, finally got to the point where they had seen the writing on the wall that the Scouts was going a direction that was incompatible with our values, and they had come up with a process or a replacement program, I guess you could say, and finally formally split just a few years ago. I was always kind of ahead of the curve. I was ready to split at least 5 years before they were, if not even longer. And, honestly, the disconnect on the values was only part of that story. I was also incredibly frustrated with the bureaucracy of scouting. I was incredibly frustrated with the paperwork of scouting. I was incredibly frustrated with the momishness and nannying aspect of scouting. I was kind of offended at always being treated like I was a pedophile when I was a parent or volunteer or leader. Although, now that I'm outside and don't have any ties anymore to the organization, I got to see that maybe they were right to have done so. Apparently they had lots of struggles with leaders who may have molested a lot of boys over the years, and unfortunately the organization kind of covered it up and hid it. So, I don't know, it's a very sad end to a once glorious organization. But be that as it may, my outfits for today are loosely based on that concept, and as they deviated from that, they kind of just were based a little bit on the idea of the traditional explorer from the golden age of exploration. What else do you do with pith helmets, right? I mean, they kind of have to go that direction. They look like Lawrence of Arabia or Dr. Livingston exploring Africa or something like that. So I'm reasonably happy with this, although I was kind of excited about this hat when I first discovered it, when I first had unlocked it, and I went and bought a bunch of them, and I used them for a while. I found that for whatever reason, with my character at least, and the head shape and the hairstyle and whatnot that I have, I don't really love the look of it. I think it would look maybe better on another character. And, that's the way it goes, I guess. I like the way my character looks, but not every outfit looks good on him, including outfits that may look really good on somebody else with a beefier build, bushier hair, maybe a beard even. Some of those things would actually would look really good on my character. I think some of the hats in particular just don't quite look right on my character. They look like they make his head too big and his neck too skinny, and or other weird things like that. So I don't love the way that it looks on my character, so I probably won't really come back to using these hats all that often, which is a real shame because I spent a lot of money getting every single version of it. But, maybe I will, and maybe I'll change the look of my character someday down the line. And that'll be that. Anyway, I'll stop talking now and just let the rest of the video speak for itself.